Welcome, welcome everybody. Just getting the event started here. Hope everyone's having a good day so far.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours.
Hey Todd.
How are you, Justin? Give it a minute for people to come in.
Yeah, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Recovering slowly but surely.
That's good. Glad you're starting to feel better. COVID? Or just a random flu of unknown origin?
Yeah, I was afflicted last week. Sorry I missed everybody. I had to take the week off. I finally came down with COVID for the first time. So shout out to everybody who's had COVID. It was quite miserable. And I am still in the process of healing, but I am definitely beginning to feel better. It's just a long, slow process, as anybody who has it knows, and it's kind of miserable. So, have you ever been affected, Justin, or not yet?
Yeah, I got it in December of last year, right when we were going through our fundraising. Um, I still can't even smell this long after.
I had the same problem, and we're not going to turn this into a talk about COVID, obviously. But boy, it was miserable. I mean, I still can't smell for sure. I can't taste, and it's been pretty rough. So we actually had a team offsite, and I flew, and I was the only one that came down with it. So I don't think I got it or gave it to anyone on the team. But those planes, you got to watch out. I'm telling you.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, welcome everybody. It's great to see everyone. Thanks for coming by. This is our weekly office hours on Subspace. We are here to answer your questions from the community. So, if you have any, please do post them in the chat. Raise your hand. We'll be happy to invite you to the stage, and you can come up and ask. We'd love to hear from you, anything at all. So, please go ahead and make a request to talk, and we'll invite you. Thank you again for coming. My name is Todd. I'm on the business team here at Subspace, and I am with Justin. Hello, Justin.
Hello, everybody. I'm Justin, also on the business team. I'm the community support manager for Subspace. So, as most of you know, I handle most of the questions and most of the interactions with the community here in Discord and in various different other locations online. So, always feel free to reach out and ask me if you have any questions about Subspace. I'm always happy to help.
Yeah, various other forums indeed. Of course, we want to point out that we have the Subspace forum, forum.subspace.network, which is what we're using as our main support hub. You can post questions in Discord. Of course, we have a Telegram and Twitter, so we'd like you to follow us there. And of course, the website, subspace.network. And it's great to see everyone. I see a lot of familiar names coming, so it's good to see. Shout out to all the team members that are here. I see we have some team members, some ambassadors, and we're glad everyone could make it. So, Justin, I guess to start off this week, there was a question today. Something happened in GitHub. Apparently, there was some kind of a mass malware attack, and it seems to have been shut down. Apparently, people had forked a bunch of projects and inserted some malicious malware code. So, have you been keeping up on this, or do you have any comments? I know somebody put that in the Discord today. I said I would bring it up.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting. It's cybersecurity situations really stepped up over the past week. Various different hacks in the crypto space, but this GitHub one definitely could have some broad-reaching effects. What they're attempting to do here is what you call a supply chain attack. Trying to hijack various different open source projects that could have been used within, millions of more other open source projects. Luckily, it wasn't the actual core repositories that were hacked. What they did is they just cloned a bunch of GitHub repositories and then effectively tried to use those cloned repositories to, basically take advantage of automated CI pipelines, see if they can find any secrets, mislead other users who maybe go to their cloned version of the repository instead of the actual original one, things like that. So some of the big projects that I saw affected were obviously some major crypto projects. I think Golang, Python, JS, Docker, pretty much all the big ones were attempted to be involved in this. But it's not really clear what the overarching reaches are at this point. And as far as Subspace goes, at this point, we do not think we are affected. It doesn't look like it's had any issues with us. And luckily, Nazar is very strict about keeping our GitHub repository locked down. It's one of his major paranoias, if you will, rightfully so. So yeah, definitely an interesting one though, because obviously GitHub kind of the core brain when it comes to open source at this point.
Yeah, Nazar, our co-founder and CTO, runs a tight ship. So I would be shocked to find that there is any wrongdoings going on in there. But Justin, it sounds like then they can avoid this just by making sure they're at the correct URL for our Subspace GitHub. So maybe you just want to shout that out real quick so everybody can make sure that they're on the right repository.
Definitely. So our GitHub organization is just Subspace, and our main repo is Subspace. So if you're looking for our mono repo, our main core repository, it's going to be github.com/subspace/subspace. So just make sure you're on that core Subspace company organization, and you should be good to go to explore our repositories as you please.
Great. I see we have a question from ExoRockset, and I think I saw this in the Discord. I didn't know if someone had responded. AMAs, we are always open to doing AMAs and to help get the word out about Subspace. So I will find out the correct person to reach out to you rather than spend everyone's time talking about it here. But sure, AMAs, we love to reach out and do things like that as much as we possibly can. So thank you for the opportunity, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Um, Other updates, Justin, on Discord, there were some channels added, I believe, as well as some new roles. What's happening there?
Yeah, so just some minor improvements that we've been trying to make to kind of improve the Discord experience overall. So did a slight reorganization as far as the layout on the side goes. Kind of expanded out the community content channels a little bit more. So prior we just had the memes and art channel. Now we have a memes channel, an articles channel, a videos channel, and an art channel, all within the community content category. So that'll help, all of you amazing content creators with your memes and articles and videos now have at least a little bit more of direction on where to post those, and hopefully those channels will be a little bit more usable for other users as well in the future.
I think
Uh,
somebody
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, I think somebody asked about that. I remember seeing something about, asking about the art and graphics to kinda clarify if it was art design or educational infographic. What exactly is the topic for that, Justin, more specifically, maybe for the art and graphics?
Yeah, so art and graphics, in general, at least in my head when I created it, would mostly be any kind of graphical or graphic design or hand-drawn art. So that would include infographics, though obviously if you maybe written a large medium article that has lots of text and maybe some infographics, that would probably be better placed in the articles. But if it's just an infographic, yes, the art and the graphics channel would be perfect for that. We've even started to see some users actually come out with hand illustrations, which are really exciting to see as well.
Yeah, we like to see all that stuff. If there's anything you think that could add value, definitely add it. We would love to see it. Quick shout out to Chris Mars with a question about will there be AMAs in the metaverse in VR? That's a great question. And actually, yes, we would love to do that. One other place I would say you can check us out is on Crypto Voxels. go on CryptoVoxels and put in Subspace Network. It's now just referred to as Voxels, but you'll see we have kind of a space themed project there. If you find our area, you cannot miss it. We are a giant presence in Voxels. And what we would love to do is potentially find a way to do something in voxels using the subspace network location that we've put there. So that's a great question. VR, just so you know, is something that we embrace heavily here at Subspace. We do all of our team meetings for the entire team in VR. Everybody is provided with a VR headset when they join the team. So that's something that we are really excited about, and we would love to do more. So if you have any suggestions, or you've seen someone do something before that was in VR and worked particularly well, we would love to hear about it. So if you have any suggestions, please go ahead and post them. But the answer is a resounding yes. I think that's something we're very excited about. Um, so Justin,
Definitely.
back to where we were. Yeah, there was apparently some new hardware updates I saw in case you missed it, some farmer updates. What's happening there?
Yeah, so real quick, just to finish up with the channel expansion, some other slight changes that were made as well were to the global community channels, um, so the language channels, that is. We've officially started kind of relaxing our process for opening new channels. As most of you know, prior, if you were to have suggested a channel, we probably would have, waited until we had an official ambassador or staff member that spoke X language before opening that language channel. We switched that process now. We are now doing community-based moderation in the global channels, meaning if you have a channel you'd like to suggest, go into the global channel in Discord, and you'll see a little language suggestion thread there. And feel free to throw in any language channels that you feel are missing. And furthermore, if you're a moderator type person who maybe speaks some of these languages and would like to help us moderate these channels, in that same message you will see a moderator application form for community-based moderators. Just to be fully transparent, this is a non-paid moderation position at this point in time. I know it is becoming a more standard practice in the crypto space to start reimbursing moderators. Not something we're quite at a stage to embrace, but definitely not something that's off the table. But at this time, it is volunteer-based. So just want to be clear and transparent about that. But definitely would love to get everyone's help and any feedback on that process as well.
Yeah, it's a great point, Justin. We're going to talk a little bit more about people that want to get more involved in a little bit. There was an ambassador program announcement that went out at the end of last week, so we are going to talk about that momentarily. But again, just a quick welcome to everyone. Anyone who's just joined us, if you have any questions, please raise your hand, throw them in the chat, and we would love to hear from you. So Justin, back to where we were. There was some hardware changes, there was some farmer updates and so forth, some new pre-releases on the GitHub. So what's going on with that?
Yeah, so the development team, like always, been working steadily. They've gotten to a point where they're starting to make some pre-releases for testing purposes. So if you would like to test those out, feel free to hop into our main repo, once again, subspace/subspace or subspace/subspace desktop on GitHub. And you may see a pre-release available in the releases section. We would love to get any feedback on those. Many improvements in there that we've been aiming for are starting to improve the syncing process, early stages of the decentralized storage network, which is basically where we're syncing from farming plots instead of node archives. And we've also started to implement early stages of allowing multiple hard drives under the same farmer. So now you can specify, hard drive 1, hard drive 2, SSD, etc., all within the same commands. Definitely, as I mentioned, still an early pre-release, so you'll probably run into some bugs, but we definitely would love to hear them, and you can report those in the testing section in our forums as well. One thing to note is this is not incentivized, so if you do run this pre-release, you will not be rewarded with tangible tokens, unfortunately, but we will definitely appreciate the feedback so we can make sure everything's all buttoned up before we head into these next phases here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and on the development side also, Justin, there was some additional, some of the things they're putting in here to improve the farming experience and some updates and speeds and so forth. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, so as mentioned prior, there was some that had to have been done for hard drives in particular compared to SSDs. So the team has been working on getting those resolved. It's not quite to the point where they want it to be fully, but they've definitely made some improvements as far as the hard drive plotting and syncing speeds go. Um, and once again, also working on really the biggest improvement is adding that multiple hard drive support. So for those users who, for example, had to set up like a RAID 0 to try and run multiple disk farming setup, you won't have to do that in the future. So it'll be a lot easier for those multiple disk farmers. Or even if you have multiple small tiny hard drives, it'll be much easier to get those set up.
Yeah, it's an important distinction. I know you mentioned that, but I think it's good for us to elaborate on that. We do have a lot of people who are running pretty large farms, and I think it's good for them to understand some of the improvements that we're looking into as we start to progress here. So, looking forward to the plan, Justin, right? We just wrapped up Gemini 1, and we're thinking probably sometime in the next, definitely sometime in the next few months that we'll be launching. So, the roadmap, the iterations from Gemini to what's going to come next.
Yeah, so we had Gemini, obviously Gemini 1, just about a month ago at this point. Moving in here into the few weeks to a few months, depending on how development goes. We should have phase 2 coming out here pretty quickly. As mentioned as well, we will be starting to do pre-releases prior to the phase so we can test everything out, make sure everything's all good to go, and do like a mini stress test before launching those next phases. So beyond that, we have phase 2. There may or may not be a phase 3 depending on how development goes, but likely will be a phase 3 of testnet, incentivized testnet. And then from there, we start heading into mainnet. So we'll start off with mainnet beta, but beyond that into, eventually full-on mainnet. So definitely some more steps to go, but we're making steady progress. And luckily, we're in quite the builder's market currently.
Yeah, exciting times. And we have been growing our development team significantly. And I think I mentioned this before, but maybe a good thing to reiterate to people again is how we're structured. Our current team is, we're in the mid 20s now in terms of the number of people that we have working on this. And we are a worldwide team. Our business team, of which Justin and I are a part, is primarily in the US, which is where we're speaking to you from now. But we do have a development team that's all over the world. We do have some in the US, but they're staggered all over the place. And a good thing to point out is that we are hiring. So if you would like to go to the webpage and look at the job opportunities there, Subspace is definitely hiring. We're looking for engineers at various levels of the stack, front end developers. Do need a lot of help. So, as Justin said, this is a builder's market, and we are taking full advantage of that. So, if you'd like to be a part of the team, please definitely check us out. And along those lines, Justin, we had another announcement come out about the ambassador program. I can talk about that a little bit, but I know you've been more involved in it. So, would you like to talk about the ambassador updates a little bit? I see we get a lot of questions in the Discord about that.
Yeah, so Diana's been working, Diana and the good majority of the rest of the team have been working pretty tirelessly on the ambassador program. So we definitely appreciate all their efforts. Some of the major updates we put out is we put out a big announcement discussing overarching how our ambassador program works, what to expect. We announced that we have our token allocation for the ambassadors, which is 1% of the allocation. One of the bigger allocations for ambassadors throughout the crypto space. But we're really just trying to emphasize the fact that the community is what matters when it comes to building a community market like we are trying to design here at Subspace. So because of that, we really have a heavy focus on our ambassador program, and we have for a while now, as far as trying to scale it up and bring it on and really bring it to its fullest potential. So definitely make sure to check out the announcement in our announcements channel if you have more curiosities as far as exactly what that means, and learn about all the details about our Subspace ambassador program. And we also recently announced the new apprentice ambassadors that had made it through the rigorous review process because of the amount of applications we saw. I think we got about 1,600 applications for 30 slots. So it definitely was very competitive. Any of you who applied and didn't make it, unfortunately, trust me, you were still very likely of a solid applicant, and we would love to see your application in future rounds. But yeah, it was just super competitive, so we had to wean it down quite thin. but finally we're able to bring them on board. So if you see anybody with the light yellow name in the Discord, they're likely an apprentice ambassador. Definitely exciting, and we're excited to get them trained up and teach them all about Subspace so they can help teach the rest of the community about Subspace as we move forward.
Yeah, congratulations to everybody who was selected. That's fantastic. And I know a ton of work is being put into this program. As Justin had mentioned, that Subspace Labs, which is us building the Subspace network, the entire IP, the network, this is all going to be handed over to foundations, most likely a partnership of foundations that are going to run this. So the community is ultimately going to be responsible for the Subspace network. So, as Justin mentioned, the ambassador program, they will be the leaders of the community and they will dictate the future direction of Subspace once we get to that point. So, if you are not selected, please don't lose hope. By the end of 2023, we plan to onboard at least a few hundred ambassadors worldwide. We are looking for people all over the world, geographic locations. We'll try to balance it out a little bit so we get coverage for different time zones and different languages. So please do keep your eye on that. And if you would like to get more information about, as Justin had mentioned, how the compensation arrangement works or about the responsibilities, Diana had put out a great document for this. The announcement is linked in the Discord channel under announcements, and it takes you to a Notion doc that talks about the things that they're looking for. And it's very important to try to focus this on people that have been participating in the community, looking at prior track records and involvement, how long you've been in the community, your contributions, if you have experience with Web3 or other applicable areas, if you have certain technical skills or network or community outreach, things of that nature. They would definitely like to hear from you. So if you look at the Notion doc, you'll get more information about that, as well as the way the cohorts are going to work. As you will be able to see through there, there is a token allocation, as Justin mentioned. It's quite generous at 1%. And that is going to kind of be tiered as we go through the various cohorts. So it is still absolutely very attractive, I think, for ambassadors at every level to continue to apply. So if you are not accepted, thank you very much for your interest. And please don't give up. Please try again. The additional cohorts are going to be coming up. And we really look forward to bringing you more information about that as things go. Um, Again, if anyone has any questions, you can throw them in the chat, raise your hand. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, and if we get something, see, we're getting something, which I'll try to read as we go here. Justin, we talked about, Subspace at a little bit of a higher level last time, which was a few weeks ago. And we were talking about the value proposition, right? It's such a crowded space in layer one, and why people would want to choose Subspace, why we would want to build Subspace. The proof of stake space is so jammed with so much competition, miners and validators trying to seek value, and how we're really looking at this proposition of true interoperability with a lot of different chains, kind of like a layer zero. And Justin, I know when we spoke at the offsite, you had some really good takes on how you envision Subspace and where it's positioned, not just in terms of applications, but where it kind of fits on the stack. So do you want to share your thoughts about that? I found that really insightful when we spoke.
Definitely. So, Subspace, I definitely agree. The proof of stake space has definitely become very jam packed. We're quickly seeing pretty much, for the most part, the entire crypto space transition to proof of stake, with very few exceptions. Chia, Filecoin, Arweave, and I guess Ergo. After Ethereum 1.0 merge, there won't be any more proof of work other than Bitcoin. So this is one thing to keep in mind, because proof of stake is inherently centralizing with large parties due to its permissioned aspects. You need to have Ethereum token to stake on Ethereum, and it unfortunately just kind of makes the powerful more powerful. So that was one of the reasons we kind of strictly avoided to have a proof of stake consensus layer, at least on Subspace. So what does that mean for Subspace? We envision ourselves being hopefully one of the last true consensus mechanisms, within the evolving space that's not proof of stake. and obviously not wasteful proof of work. So proof of capacity is what we really see as the consensus future. And now what that brings as far as a value proposition kind of goes hand in hand with what you would call, the Ethereum computer. So one thing I always find interesting is that, a general computer, you have your computation and your storage. Kind of need those two portions for it to be effective in any way. If you just have computation, it doesn't really do too much for you because you can't store anything you're computing. If you have a bunch of storage but no computation, it still can't do too much because you're storing a bunch of stuff that you can't manipulate in any way. So in my eyes, there has yet to be seen a true decentralized internet computer, as the Ethereum, for example, likes to claim. While they are a decentralized internet execution layer, they don't quite have that storage piece of the puzzle figured out. And this is what gets me really excited about Subspace. In my eyes, it's one of the first truly decentralized execution-capable storage networks, which is really going to open up the ceiling, or break the glass ceiling rather, as far as some of the dApps and options that people have on what they can do with Subspace. I know we've talked about interoperability, swapping NFTs. There may be some better paths to go down with bridging, for example. I know we've seen some issues with that recently in the space. All of these things are things that could potentially be solved by a truly scalable storage and execution layer that's paired onto the same network. And that's just the start. There's much more that we can explore, definitely, as we continue to make Subspace into what we envision it as well.
Yeah, that's really well said, Justin. And again, to reemphasize to people who maybe aren't that familiar with it, that this is an independent sovereign blockchain. You mentioned scalability, and one of the lines that we've used in the past is Web3 at internet scale. As you said, it's the scalability, it's the decentralization that really make this unique. And quickly hopping over to what ExoRocks had posted, I saw your feedback, and you were correct in that no information on the token sale or tokenomics have been released yet. The preference for the sale is, in fact, when a token sale takes place, if and when a token sale takes place, preference will be given to those who've participated in the incentivized testnets. The incentivized testnet actually was deployed. We're currently in a pause while we put some updates on the chain. So it is currently unincentivized. That is correct. But yeah, as Justin was just mentioning the decentralization, the scalability, the ability to host the execution layer are the things that we're really excited about. And we've been doing a lot of work internally on our vision for the architecture. And our goal is going to be to get somebody on where we're going to talk about this a little more. We'll grab somebody from the team where we can really start to talk about the architecture and where we see this going from the execution layer, the data access layer, the storage. There is really a lot of things that we're looking at. Again, this sits, as a layer 1 or layer 0 type network. We do use Substrate as the framework, which is what Polkadot and Kusama use. However, there are no dependencies on Polkadot or Kusama. It's, again, an independent sovereign blockchain. So this will be run, using the farmers and the executor nodes that we're going to be pushing out. As you all know, you've participated in the test nets. And Justin, that brings us into like the farming exercise a little bit. And you had some really good thoughts about that too, the value proposition, because the requirements are much different than doing something like a proof of stake. Maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So when I started mining Bitcoin way back in the day, it was a simple process. You didn't have to buy an amp miner and some crazy custom computer and all this fancy stuff. It was literally a piece of software you installed on your computer and you started it. That was it. So that's what we envision for Subspace as well. It's just back to this core original vision as far as the mining experience on Bitcoin was start the software, it does its cryptographical computations in the background, and you should be able to continue your business as usual. Now, that's also one thing about proof of capacity, is since we're not wasting CPU space, in theory, you should still be able to use your computer if you so please. That's also farming at the same time. So this is where we kind of go back to lowering the barrier to entry. One of the biggest things when it comes to decentralization is how hard is it for your miner to get started. Some other protocols, for example, you need to have at least a 10th generation Intel with X, Y, and Z features to even be able to start and run their program. So that's the barrier so high that it's only people with $2,000, $3,000 computers that can even start the program let alone doing it profitably, or should I say effectively. Um, so with Subspace, we envision that the laptop you guys are probably using and viewing this on should be able to run it. Maybe in the future we can continue optimizations and really start to bring it to things like Raspberry Pis and even smaller computers. But obviously, some work will need to be done there. But really, the main concept is any modern computer that you've bought within, I don't know, let's say the most recent 10 years, maybe even longer, should be able to run a Subspace farmer, meaning you can participate and at least get some Subspace credits and be a part of that ecosystem.
Yeah, and you don't need any credits to get started, which is the big difference with proof of stake, right? You have to have these tokens and put them someplace. However, you can do these just with commodity hardware and a low end computer. And of course, there will be opportunity for people that do have a little higher power computers, like a gaming computer or something, to run executor nodes. And Justin, I'm pretty sure we're running, it's going to be decoupled. Well, we're going to take the farmer side and the executor side, and they're going to be apportioned out. And that decoupled execution, when do we envision that taking place?
Yeah, so decoupled executions already, technically, I think there's already a test network running that the development team has been messing with. So it's in a semi-functional, early version. We're definitely getting closer. I would expect to see decoupled execution here in one of the coming phases. And that's really the secret to our execution and storage magic, is that decoupled execution. As you mentioned, Todd, so you don't need Subspace credits to get onto the network, but if you only have a small amount, you can definitely see a little bit of an improvement as far as your ROI goes by staking those credits. So you don't need to buy the credits to get onto the network, but you can still see the advantages of staking and getting some kind of APR in return on that as well.
Yeah, so you can farm your credits on a farmer and then you can stake them on an executor and potentially share in those transaction fees. So, a very good point to make, Justin, that the farmer is producing the blocks, getting the block reward. The executor nodes with the decoupled execution are actually maintaining the state of the chain, and they're going to be the ones to get the transaction fees. But by staking the tokens that you farmed with the executor nodes, you will be able, as Justin said, to accrue more value. That's something I would love to dive more into in the future, Justin. I see we're at the closing time, but maybe next week we can pick up there. But do you have any closing thoughts you would like to share?
No, I think it's been great to see how much we've been getting everybody excited about Subspace. I'm extremely excited about it myself. I know you are as well, Todd. I'm just can't wait to see these next phases and where we find ourselves here shortly.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here if we weren't, guys. We are very excited about this. The future holds great promise, and we will continue to bring it to you. Every week, we'll be back here at the same time. So, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you have any questions, please go ahead and throw them in the chat. We'll get to them, or we'll pick it up next week. And thank you again for joining us all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Have a great day, everybody.